Hello and welcome to our podcast Investments in Panama. I'm Klaus Happ and today I would like to have a look at the real estate market in Panama City, to have a look at the price development and to see which districts within Panama City are the best to live. And as well we would like to give an outlook for the market for the future. So please enjoy our podcast. All the best, Klaus Happ. Today, we will have a look at the price development over the last 12 months and to see what is the current situation of the real estate market in Panama City. It is important to mention that I'm describing the situation in the real estate market before the Coronal Crisis. I will try to explain the possible impact of the Coronal Crisis on the market later. Also, this is quite difficult at this stage. Since the real estate market in Panama City is very diverse, we concentrate in our report on the location and qualities in which ourselves and our customers are active as buyers. These are the prime locations in Panama City, located in the Unesco Old Town Casco Viejo, in the Promenade Street Avenida Balboa and in Punta Pacifica. These are basically residential properties of very good quality in unique locations. The following real estate prices in Panama City are prices and rents realized by us and our customers in the year 2019 and the beginning of 2020. We concentrate on these locations and districts because they are unique, stable in value and good to rent. Unique real estate means that you cannot simply duplicate them. In the locations in the modern part of the city where we buy, there are almost no free building plots left. And in the UNESCO Old Town, there are basically only about 850 houses on a peninsula, of which about 50% are already renovated or under restoration. Due to the nature of the peninsula, the supply of real estate here is naturally limited. Apartments in the Avenida Balboa are characterized by the breathtaking view of the Pacific Ocean, the islands, and the ocean tankers that are waiting for the entrance to the Panama Canal. They are very close, the apartments, they are very close to metro stations, workplaces, and shopping malls. There are already 2 metro lines completed in Panama City. Each of them has about 16 stations. And probably they are going to start with the construction of the Line 3 quite soon. But it all depends on the Corona crisis because right now all the construction sector is shut down. Line 3 will connect all the districts on the other side of the Panama Canal where hundreds of thousands of people live and all of them have to come to Panama City each day for work. So the metro line will give them a great advantage to their life. By the way, Panama is the only country in Central America that has its own metro lines. So all the apartments that we are looking to are close to the metro station, working places, shopping malls, and are therefore popular with the multinational companies in Panama and their employees who are looking for apartments to rent in Panama City. Panama City is the headquarters of about 250 multinational corporations, and most of these companies control their activities in Central and South America from here. And these companies and their employees are looking for residential properties to live near their workplaces, and for this reason the locations described are very suitable for living and renting. On the described Avenida Balboa there are about 2 or 3 building plots left, so that means in the nearer future the whole Avenida Balboa will be finished and no more supply will be offered. This should be very positive for the property prices. The same applies to selected properties in the area of Punta Pacifica. In this part of the city, in this district, Punta Pacifica, it's a bit more difficult to get real estate with an unobstructed view of the sea, because here it is built very narrow. In general, we concentrate on the best quality residential towers in relation to construction quality, property management, and amenities. Normally all these residential towers have some nice pool decks, barbecue areas for the children, squash or tennis courts, and as well party locations that the residents can rent. I often call this all-in living because you have a lot of amenities and things that you need for your life. Properties in the prime seaside locations in metropoles all over the world are in demand and will remain so in the future as the supply is limited. We are currently seeing a buyer's market in Panama or in Panama City that, with the right strategy, delivers very interesting return figures. While many locations in the world, like here in Germany, have to struggle with high purchase prices and low rental yields, we buy in the first row in Panama City at the Pacific side for approximately $2,500 per square meters and rent these properties out for approximately $15 per square meters. My recommendation for you is to rent your apartments out furnished, because by furnishing an apartment you will get about a 10% higher yield or a 10% higher rental income. That's the way how we achieve about $15 per square meter. And this enables us to achieve a gross rental yield of about 7% in US dollar in the fastest growing country in the Western world. In general, I should mention that the supply of living space of properties in the modern city has grown very strongly during the last years, which has led to falling prices in some locations. As described before, we focus on a specific part of the modern city, of a specific part of the Panama City property market, where supply is limited and demand is good. And we concentrate on locations where normally an expat who comes to Panama would like to live. And this is normally the old town Casco Viejo, or within the modern part of the city, the Pacific Ocean side. Expats normally stay in their foreign locations, like in Panama, between 1 and 4 years. So what we do, we work with them together with a 1-year rental contract, and we could renew it every year. And until now, this has worked very well. And to be honest, we have never had any problems with late payments or non-payments of the monthly rent from our tenants. Because to describe tenants, so the employees or the multinational companies itself, like Nestle, Roche, Adidas, Procter & Gamble, Dell, Total, Red Bull, these are very good sustainable tenants. Directly in front of the skyline of Panama City, so of the modern part of the city, you will find the Unesco District, the so-named Casco Viejo, where about 850 buildings are listed as UNESCO World Heritage Site. Many years ago, the old town was considered the most dangerous part of Panama City. But with the beginning of the restorations of these beautiful colonial buildings since 2003, the Casco Viejo has successfully transformed into a very charming and popular district, in which meanwhile, about 50% of the buildings have been restored or are under restoration. As the buildings vary a lot in terms of location, floor plan, quality and equipment, it is much more difficult to name you a flat purchase price or rents, because in some streets of the old town it can be very noisy due to the restaurants, renovation work and traffic, whereas in other locations, you can enjoy the charm and the peace of the old town on your own rooftop terrace. It depends very much on the right choice of the property. Since the number of buildings on this peninsula is naturally limited, it is basically a very unique and stable property location. In our preferred locations here and in our preferred qualities within the old town, you pay for a second-hand real estate approximately between $3,000 and $3,500 per square meters, and you can rent them out for about $14 to $18 per square meters. New restoration projects are much more expensive and usually in this time range between $4,000 and $4,500 per square meter. In general, the two locations, the modern part of the city and Casco Viejo, the old town, are very different. Different regarding the real estate prices, the type of construction, but as well the feeling of the property. And as well regarding the lifestyle of the district. I mean, Casco Viejo is the inn district of Panama City. You will find here all the bars, the restaurants, the rooftop bars. It could be very noisy, but it brings as well a lot of fun, and it is very charming. I mean, this is the Latin American feeling of life. So there are a lot of people who prefers to live in this colonial style district of Panama City. But as well, this brings a lot of disadvantages. I already mentioned the noise, but as well, there are a lot of cars in the very narrow streets within the Casco Viejo. And if you live here, you will probably have some problems to find your parking space if you don't own your own. And if you live here in Casco Viejo, probably you will work in the modern part of the city. And as Panama has a lot of traffic jam, you have to drive with your car from the old town to the modern part of the city. Normally, without heavy traffic, this should take about 5 to 10 minutes. But it could take as well, let's say 45 minutes. So as you can see, there are advantages and disadvantages for both parts of the city, for the modern part of the city as well for the old town. So that's why we buy in both parts, and you will find people that love the charming colonial style Casco Viejo and others that prefer the all-in living of a modern residential tower. I mentioned earlier that we are in a buyer's market in Panama. We've been in this market, let's say, since 2016, which enables us as buyers to find the properties we are looking for and to achieve returns that are no longer available in other countries. And in my opinion, there are three main reasons for the buyer markets, which distinguishes us from most other real estate markets in the world. First, the Panama Papers. The Panama Papers occurred in 2016 and have led investors to being very reserved about new real estate purchases in Panama. Furthermore, we have had a very strong US dollar for a quite long time now, and not only against the euro, but also against other currencies such as the South American currencies like the Brazilian real. And this makes real estate investments or investments in general in Panama more expensive for these foreign buyers because of the currency. And in addition, as mentioned before, a lot of new buildings were built in the modern part of the city, especially until 2011, but also in the few years after that. This had led to an oversupply, and this was due to a special tax legislation that has enabled real estate developers to receive a tax exemptions for all properties completed before the end of 2011 for the property tax and for 20 years. And this new offer first had to be processed by the buyer market. As described before, this has already happened in our preferred locations, and there's hardly any more building land or building plot available. For these reasons, we are in a buyer's market that enables us to buy attractive properties. But like every cycle, this cycle will pass as well. Since the middle of last year, we have noticed changes in the property market, and this in the sense that new groups of buyers are appearing on the market. Accordingly, we find ourselves in an increasingly competitive situation. Some of these new groups of buyers come from abroad, where they can no longer find attractive returns, and this new competitive situation for the buyers will finally, probably, lead to rising prices and to an end of the mentioned cycle. Because we are not the only ones who appreciate the advantages of Panama, the country with the fastest economic growth in the Western world and the US dollar as its national currency, and it is politically and economically secure and stable. By the way, these are as well the reasons why the multinational companies choose Panama as their headquarters for Central and South America. I have been frequently asked who are the players in the real estate market in Panama. Basically, you can say that in Panama City there are no institutional investors like real estate funds in the real estate market. Buyers are mostly private individuals or very wealthy families, so like family offices. And from our experience, the current sellers are the same players. So recently we have received more offers for sale from Venezuelan sellers, and this were often fire sales, as these Venezuelan sellers often needed liquidity in their home market for their family or their business. So you can basically say that this is not an institutional market, and the market is as well quite intransparent. So we are very happy to help you if you have any question regarding prices or in general about the real estate market. Are there any empty apartments in Panama? Of course. For example, if a property cannot be rented out well because you have not chosen the right property. On the other hand, there are as well buyers, especially from South America, who buy property in Panama but leave it empty. All they care about is to have brought money out of their home country and to have found a safe haven for their money. They are not looking for a tenant for their apartments. We find this kind of buyer all over the world. Let us now turn to the outlook. Since July 2019, the new government of Panama has been in office, and people are waiting for the new projects to promote the economy and to bring new workers to Panama. This has positive influence on the real estate market in Panama through the rental demand. Among the most important major projects are the construction of the fourth bridge over the Panama Canal with the Metro Line 3, which will connect Panama City with the other districts on the other side of the Panama Canal. The first cruise terminal for Panama City is another very big new project, and the new convention center, which should be completed as well in 2020 and which is the biggest in whole Central America. The last two mentioned projects will lead to a strong increase in foreign visitors to Panama City. And the economy will benefit from this, and new real estate investors will arrive in Panama City. As well, Terminal 2 of the international airport in Panama City should be completed very soon. And of course, the planned city beach. Directly in front of the skyline, a city beach modeled on Rio de Janeiro is to be built, and this should greatly enhance the value of the property. This is the big dream of the new mayor of Panama. But there are other reasons as well why we expect rising property prices in Panama. Due to the worldwide unstable political situation, many wealthy families are looking for safe international US dollar locations. Panama is one of them. In the past, political unrest in South America has often led wealthy families to bring their assets to Miami or to Panama, both Spanish-speaking, legally secure, and with the US dollar as currency. Whoever wants to invest in the Latin American region will have Panama on the agenda right now due to the lack of alternatives. The crisis in South America that began in October last year is leading Panama to further expand its status as hub of the Americas. In 2019, more new groups have once again set up headquarters than in the previous year. They choose Panama because of the security of the country and the geographical location, and they choose Panama as headquarters for their Latin American business. As well, in 2019, one of the world's largest copper mines started operating in Panama, and this will further support the already strong GDP growth of the country. Since 2002, Panama has been one of the fastest growing economies in the world, and it is always good to invest where economic growth already exists. But of course, beside of all these positive facts, Panama's economy continues to struggle with the following difficulties. It has a quite pure education system for the population. I mean, there are very good international private schools in Panama, but the public education system is not that good. Panama has still to fight against its reputation as a tax haven, which prevents investors to invest in Panama. Also, Panama is no longer on an OECD blacklist. And finally, Panama is a very good location to establish your own business. It's very business friendly. But the problem is there's a quite big lack of qualified specialists. And as mentioned before, the real estate market in Panama is not that transparent. So it's not that easy to compare prices of the different properties and what kind of rent you will get. So that's not so easy. In the description of this podcast and as well on my homepage, you find our real estate reports from former years. And there you will find as well the historic price development. You will find here as well our podcast Taxes in Panama, which gives you some good information if you are interested in investing in Panama. Let us now finally come to the subject of the Coronal Crisis. As everywhere else in the world, it is currently too early to say what impact the Coronal Crisis will have on the real estate market in Panama City. Basically, real estate will continue to be in great demand as an asset class in the future. In the current crisis, residential real estate has so far remained stable in value and has a much lower volatility than, for example, the share market. Panama's government has introduced very concrete measures to contain the coronavirus from the very beginning and is considered as a role model for corona crisis management within the Latin American region. But of course, some of the major projects mentioned above or before can only be implemented with a time delay. For example, the public hearing on the planned city beach had to be postponed in March because of the coronavirus. But the positive factors in general for Panama will remain, and the country will continue to be a preferred location for asset and real estate investments. So we are already at the end of our today's podcast. As mentioned before, you will find more and detailed information in the description of this podcast or on our homepage. And please feel free to contact us for further information or questions. Thanks and all the best, Klaus Happ. This was another episode of our podcast Investments in Panama. Further information about the podcast you will find in the podcast description and as well on our homepage. If you enjoyed our podcast, please feel free to give us a like or a good recommendation. All the best, your Klaus Happ.